Chapter 1, Part 1. So you can see we have this image here of Jonathan Harker, and he's traveling to Transylvania for the first time. And we're going to think about how to bring in all this data inside the book. And so the story is he's going to Transylvania. He doesn't know that the person he's going to meet is a vampire. All he knows is he's going to meet a rich client and try to help him buy a house in London. So he's kind of having fun in the beginning. Later on, it's not so much fun. And you can see we have some dates and some names, and here's the old spelling of Budapest. So we'd like to incorporate that, keep all this, keep the old names and the new names and times and things like that. So the first thing we need to do is put together a schema. And to make a schema in EdgeDB, you use SDL, and SDL is it's declarative. So what it is you just say, this is my schema, these are my types, these are their properties, and so on. And it represents the final state of the schema, what you want it to be. So it's very human readable. And then what happens is after you make your schema, you do a migration. And what happens is EdgeDB will automatically turn your schema into these commands for the database to understand how to go from the current state to the new state. So if you say, for example, you've got a city type and you add that, and you start out without a city type and maybe give it a property name, which is maybe a string, and what will happen is you look at SDL and you can see your final state, and then you do the migration, and then EdgeDB makes these commands for the database. So it'll say like create type city, and then it'll say like create property name, which is a string. So it would be like two commands for it to go make the city and then make its property, and then it'll be able to get to the schema that you put together. So you don't have to worry about those individual commands, just the final form. And that's why migrations are so convenient in EdgeDB. It just it asks you a few questions like, did you make this type, just to make sure that it understands what you're trying to do. And then it puts together a script, and we're going to look at that pretty shortly. So yeah, we'd like maybe a city type, an NPC, because Jonathan Harker is an NPC, and he has some things that he does throughout the book. And so yeah, so if we want to make a type, it's quite easy. So object types, by the way, are things like these that we put together, cities and people and so on. And the other types are called scalar types, and they're just simple types that don't get inserted into the database, like string or integer or whatever, really like simple types. So object types are the ones that we insert and delete and modify and so on, and create ourselves. And you make them by using this keyword type. And if you do that, then there you go, you have yourself a type. And if you want to start giving it properties, you open up these curly brackets, and then you start putting properties inside there. So the first thing is, okay, where exactly do we start typing this? And we type it inside our project. And to do that, we have to start a project. And to do that, you want EdgeDB to be installed, and that's quite easy. Maybe where's dark mode? Oh well, I guess I have to put up with this light mode for a little bit. So in Windows, so in Linux it's really easy. You just use this command, and right away you have EdgeDB. And Windows, it's also easy, but you have to have WSL installed, which is a Windows subsystem for Linux, which is also, it's easy to install. It's a good amount of space. It's like 6 gigabytes or something. But once you have that installed, then go into PowerShell as an administrator. Just copy this, paste it, and then it will be installed. And that's the EdgeDB CLI. And so after that, it's time to start a new project. So all you have to do is go into your terminal here, and you type EdgeDB project init. EdgeDB project init. And you can see it, so it found this, I actually initialized this once before, so it has this this EdgeDB.toml file, which is a configuration file. and it's kind of it's used in Rust a lot. Cargo.toml, I think the Zig uses it too. And in JavaScript, what's it called? Project.json or something. I don't really use JavaScript that much, but that's where project configurations go, whereas here we're using a toml file. And so it says, what do you want to name it? Okay, we'll call it easy. And then it so it brings up the latest version, and then it starts initializing the instance. And then you can see there's a Postgres message, and it says starting up the system. And by the way, this takes somewhat longer in Windows, whereas inside Linux it's pretty much instantaneous. So yeah, it's always the experience is always a little bit better in Linux, which includes inside WSL. So if you go, we're actually inside Windows here, but if you type WSL and do everything inside, then even if you're using Windows, it'll be even faster. But there you go, that was still pretty quick. So everything is up to date. You can see it says applying migrations. Didn't do anything here because we don't have any migrations yet. We've got nothing. And then to connect to easy being the name of our instance, run EdgeDB. So we can just take a look at that. So if you type that, see we are now connected. So this is the name of the instance, and that's the name of the database. And you can start doing things like select 9. But we'll look at that in a second, because first we want to, let's get the terminal out of the way. Okay. So yeah, now we've typed that, which takes us into the REPL, and there are actually two options here. So you can see we just used the REPL, and there's also the EdgeDB UI, which people seem to like better because it looks nice. And so we're going to try to use the UI as much as possible, but the UI has its own REPL. So you can see here's our instance called easy, and then inside an instance is one or more databases, and they're called EdgeDB by default. So this is the actual database. So if we go inside there, inside the UI, you can see there's a REPL here, and then yeah, we're going to try typing a few things. So the first thing we're going to do is select Jonathan Harker. So let's give that a try. So let's make this a bit bigger. Let's see if I can see it in the screen. Yep, select Jonathan Harker. So you type that, and you can see, so it returns a string called Jonathan Harker, and inside EdgeQL, a string is either single or double quotes, so it's treated as exactly the same. So there you go. This is our first output, our first query. And so now the next thing is okay. So that's nice. We can type like select 9. We can type select some simple types. But now we would like to go into our schema, and so we'll do that in the next video.